Karah, I feel like part of this podcast really was inspiration. Like you grabbed onto it, you wanted to go, you asked me, and I loved every part of it. But I feel like it serves a different purpose for you. And that is really to, for the first time ever, start sharing your story and really being that initial voice so others can have theirs.
I would agree with you. And we talked about this before, you and I, where our first episode where I shared my story, or at least started to talk about how I was sexually abused for 10 years. It was more statistical, and I think I was still in that area of trying to figure out how deep I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
But there's so much more that I want to do in regards to spreading awareness for sexual abuse, that if I can't tell my story completely authentically,
Mm-hmm.
then I won't be able to do all these things. And then I won't be able to help others the way I want to help them.
And it's hard, right? Like,
it is hard.
It takes so much courage. Like, how long have we been friends?
15 years?
15 years. And I feel like you gave me a blanket story, right? When we first started our friendship. And then I did not really understand until we were, at a little tipsy at a wedding?
Your wedding?
My wedding.
Whose wedding was that? Oh, God.
Yeah.
I
that wedding. I should.
This was a year ago.
This was recent. So, like, it's taken time, rightfully so, and you have gained so much courage, and I am so proud to call you my friend. And telling me is one thing at a drunken wedding.
Yes.
And here we are. Where does it start for you?
I think it's very present for me. The sexual abuse itself is not present. I think it's more the acceptance and support from my family that is present. The abuse ended back in 2007. I'm not going to math that right now. But anyone who's gone through any type of sexual abuse, you know that whether it was your choice who talked about it or somebody else's choice who started to tell your story for you, not all the facts are going to come up right away. As I've gotten older, as I've started to heal more, I felt more comfortable to share my full story. And I really wanted to sit down with my family and say, hey, listen, okay, I know that, abortion happened, but I'd like to sit down and tell you all of my feelings, tell you how I'm feeling, tell you exactly what happened. And I get a lot of pushback. It's a lot of, I already dealt with that. I already dealt with that. It's time for you to deal with that and move on to. Or I thought you dealt with that already. Or I thought you forgave. But just because I forgave or I started dealing with it a long time ago doesn't mean that it's gone. It doesn't mean we can just repress it and sweep it under the rug.
Mm-hmm.
I never had those full conversations with my family. And so I definitely have a massive disconnect and a massive loss of support, I feel like, from my family, because they don't want to talk about it. They want to pretend like it didn't happen.
And in a way, they're putting the onus on you.
Yeah.
So
because I want us to keep bringing it up. Because no, it's not been dealt with. It has not been talked about to the fullest extent. Because I want to talk about it, I'm the bad guy.
Hmm.
And that's exhausting. With the podcast, on Instagram, we post a lot about healing and trying to forgive yourself from abuse. If you've been in an abusive relationship, we all often hold shame and guilt from our abusers. And my grandma reached out to me.
Mm.
And, I'm always hopeful that it's going to be something positive. But it's, why can't you just forgive and move on? I mean, technically, I did forgive my abuser.
Mm-hmm.
I forgave my brother. I mean, he did. He molested me for 10 years. It started when I was 5. And I can remember the first experience like it was yesterday. I was 5 years old. I had just gotten out of the shower or bath. I don't know where my parents were. Maybe he was, there just watching me, but he's 6 years older than I am. So at the time he would have been 11. And it must have been cold because the fire was going. And I had gotten out of like I said, I got out of the shower or the bath, and I'm in my towel all wrapped up, and I go, and the TV's on in the living room, and I sit in front, and I'm warming up next to the fire watching TV. My brother's sitting there too. And all of a sudden, he kind of turns around toward me like you and I are facing, so kind of facing each other. And he says, "Hey," and he kind of like moves my towel out of the way. He's like, "Let me see that," referring to my vagina. Or my flower, as my mother would put it. And I'm 5. I don't know. What do you mean? Oh, okay. Like, your initial instinct as a child is just to kind of say, okay, you don't know. It's your brother. You don't think anything is wrong with it. So he comes in and he inspects it. He moves my lips from side to side. He's telling me, oh yeah, in school today we're learning about different body parts. And so I kind of just wanted to see what one looked like in person. I was like, okay. That's how it started.
Mm.
And from then on, it wasn't an everyday thing. I don't even think it was an every month thing. But I know that from the age of 5 to almost 15 years old, the last time it happened just before my 15th birthday, he would sneak into my room every night. Honestly, I'd go into freeze.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd hear him like army crawling. He'd slowly open my door and army crawling. And the first few times that he came into my room, he would just come and he would touch my feet. And it was like every single time he got more comfortable, he made his way up higher and higher. And if I moved, he scurried away like this. But there were some times that I was too afraid to move. Like even right now, as I'm talking about it, I can feel my heart. My heart is racing. I remember laying there and I was traumatized. And there were only a few times as I was growing up that I really got this overwhelming need as I got older, maybe 10, 12 years old, that I felt that I needed to tell my parents. And at the time, they lived in the upstairs bedroom where we were on the first floor. This one time in particular, it's in the middle of the night. I couldn't sleep. I'm laying in bed. I'm completely frozen to my bed, but I knew in my mind that I needed to get up and tell my mom. I knew something was wrong. I knew that this wasn't right. And talk about a lot of mental talk. Okay, you can do this. You can get up. You can just sit up. Just sit up in your bed. That's the first step.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you have to do to go tell mom, right? Okay, you sat up. All right, great job. I mean, this is over the course of a couple hours in the evening. Okay, all right, now stand up and get to your door. Now once you're at your door, make it down the hallway. Now once you're down the hallway, you can make it to their stairs to go upstairs. I never made it up the stairs. That happened a few times. I would say probably only twice. That I actually inside built up the courage to tell someone, and then I backed down. People would refer to us, our family, as the Beaver family. Or for our younger generation, the Brady Bunch.
Mm-hmm.
White picket fence, beautiful house, a hardworking mom. Even though she was a work-from-home mom, she was a stay-at-home mom, and then she worked. We traveled all the time outside of the country, and we were raised to be very culturally aware and learn new things and be accepting of others, and we made great money. And everybody, yeah, like I said, everybody looked at us. We had this beautiful white picket fence, right? It was the thing. It was the house. It was the Smith family, the 5 Ks when my sister was born. And so anytime I really thought about saying anything, my fear was that life, or that perception of our family would be exploded. Something my mom always used to say, which I don't agree with now, is we have to go to this party to show face. I don't agree with that. If I'm going to show up to a party, it's because I want to show up.
Yeah.
I'm not a show facer. She very much is.
You were holding the image.
We had to keep this image of our family, this perfect family. And that's why I never talked. I was afraid of the image exploding. I also loved my brother. I still love my brother. I went to therapy. I was told I had Stockholm Syndrome. I don't know if I agree with that. Maybe I do, maybe a form of Stockholm Syndrome, but I do. I love him to death. And that's what I was going to say earlier. He never came to me and said, don't ever tell anybody. If you do, it'll hurt so-and-so. If you do, it'll hurt me. I'll go to jail. You'll go to jail. That never happened. He would come into my room at night. He would molest me and he would leave. And then I wouldn't talk to him for months. He would pretend I was not there. He would use me and throw me away. And the other thing that's crazy too is as I got older, I could start seeing the signs of when it would happen.
Before it happened?
Before it happened. We didn't have a good sibling relationship. We weren't. You have sisters.
Mm-hmm.
You played with your sisters growing up?
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you could talk to them and go to them for things?
Yeah.
I didn't have that with my brother. It was like living with a stranger.
Yeah. He had to be, because if he wasn't, right?
It was very separate.
Yeah.
I grew up having a brother, but mourning a brother that I never had.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would seek relationships with other people's brothers. I grew up thinking my brother was the one who was supposed to take care of me. He was supposed to keep me safe. He was supposed to yell at boys who came over to the house and beat people up if they talked bad about me.
The older protective brother.
He abused his power. Absolutely, he abused his power. And finally, when I grew up, MySpace was a thing. And I remember there was this thing on MySpace, and it was like, here are 100 secrets. Delete one and put in your own. And I remember deleting number 9 and putting in mine, saying that I was being sexually abused by my brother. And my girlfriend had called me, so I was 13 at the time. I remember my girlfriend called me a couple days later, and she said, hey, I know what number yours is. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she was referring to the MySpace post. And she's like, I know, your number is number 9. I was blown away at the fact that she knew. And I was like, no, it's not. I denied it so much. Over and over and over again, I denied it. Finally, I was like, you want to know what? Maybe this is my fault. So, but my response was, okay, you're right, but you can't fucking say anything. And that started a long journey of me telling people about my experience, about my sexual abuse, but saying that they weren't allowed to look at my brother differently.
Because you were protecting him.
Because I was protecting him. And so she did. She kept her mouth quiet for about a year and a half. She told her parents. I was aware her parents knew. They never said anything to me, but I remember she had gotten, some pamphlets and stuff together, and she had given them to me on the side. I remember immediately throwing them away. And it wasn't until just a few days before my birthday that my girlfriend had reached out to my cousin. Now, the funny thing is my mom actually accused my cousin of having an intimate relationship with me. We're not blood related. Not like that really matters, but we're not blood related at all. He's older. He was my big brother. He taught me how to drive. He took me to get ice cream. I talked to him about boys. He was my best friend growing up. But because of that relationship, my mom thought that we were intimate, and we weren't. So she accused him, and he stayed away for a long time until my girlfriend had called him to tell him what happened. And so then he reached out to my grandma. So here's the other problem too. I don't know what she said to him.
Your friend.
I don't know exactly what was said. And so I don't know exactly what he said to my grandma, which then my grandma called my mom. She came over. And so I don't know what those quote unquote facts were that were said. And have you ever seen the movie 13?
Mm-hmm.
Very prevalent for me during that time. So I remember after my mom found out, the actions that took place after that was my mom committed my brother into the hospital, I think, or took him to the hospital, and she told them what happened, and they called the police, and then all of a sudden, within minutes, I had no idea what was going on. He was in jail. I had no idea. She ended up taking me to the park, and memories are hard.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what happened, but I remember the feeling of she wanted to kind of embrace me and talk about what I've been dealing with for 10 years. And I looked at her like, don't even fucking, it was like I could feel her hurt that it was happening. I did not feel safe to let me, oh my gosh, finally, thank you. Right. No, it was, you're upset. I've been fucking dealing with this for 10 years, and now that you know you're upset, let me console you and tell you what happened. That's how I felt. And so I don't know what I said to her. And again, it wasn't my choice. I don't know. I hope
that you would have said something.
I hope I would have said something, but I don't know. The choice was taken from me. And so in that moment, I was angry. It wasn't up to me. And so again, my power was taken from me again. I believe in my heart that I would have said something, or I would have just started beating the shit out of him. One of the two. I think it would have been the latter.
I would accept it. And you were all
yeah. So, I remember in court, the prosecution side, they were prepping me to say whatever the fuck they wanted me to say. My brother's up on the stand. They're getting ready to give him his judgment. Many people would be happy about that. Again, I was fucking angry. And I loved my brother. I had love for my brother. And I truly thought in my heart that he didn't need jail, because what the fuck does jail do to people? He needed help. And so I got up in front of the judge, and that's what I told her.
At 15? At
15 years old. I said he should not be going to jail. He should go to therapy, a mental institution, something that will help him. And jail's not going to help him. It's not what he should do, right? And it was much longer and probably more well provided at 15 years old when I said it. And I remember the judge looking at me and saying, wow. She also wasn't expecting a victim to be speaking on behalf of the abuser. My mother and everybody behind me, I think they were pissed. I don't know if my mother was because it's her son, but they were not expecting what I said. So I don't remember what his original sentencing was, but he then got 2 years and he got out early on good behavior. And I remember when he got out, no, I'm not going to go there yet. So I remember after he went to jail, I would go and visit him. I cared about him. I wanted to know he was okay. And I remember when I would show up and go see him, he never asked me how I was doing. So one day I said, I'm not going to go. See what happens. When my mom came home after she visited him, I said, did he ask about me? She said, no. Interesting. So the next time I didn't go. Did he ask about me? No, he didn't. Okay. Fuck you, I'm not going anymore. I don't care about you anymore. You did not abuse me for 10 years and then I stood up for you. Mm-hmm. You don't get to know how I am. Was very angry. Maybe that's where the Stockholm Syndrome comes into play. I don't know. With like wanting that
relationship.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when he got out, it was homecoming. It was like I think maybe it was my junior homecoming. It must have been, because it wasn't that longer. It was before, he went in before I even started sophomore year. So it was like 12 months later, 14 months later. I think he actually went in April. Something like that. So he got out and I didn't know, and I'm getting ready for homecoming, and then there's a knock at the door. You've seen videos of family members welcoming home vets. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what fucking happened. He was in my front door, I saw him, and I welcomed him home with open fucking arms. And I pretended like nothing happened. My family pretended like nothing fucking happened. Now, he wasn't allowed to live in my house anymore. I think not only because of that, but also because we were right around the block from school. So he moved, but for a long time, we continued to live that life, and we would go to the bars together. He got me my first fake ID. I was his DD. And I realized he called me whenever he needed something. Money, a ride, me to help him at his job. He worked in the restaurants a lot, and so he'd be like, hey, I need a waitress. And I'd say, yeah, sure. Or, hey, so-and-so found out about my record, and I'd say, I'll be right there, because if I can fucking forgive you, then they don't get to say anything about it. Mm-hmm. And like I said earlier, that was the behavior that I continued for many years. I remember the first time I told my husband what happened. I looked at him and I said, I'm going to tell you this, but you don't get to fucking look at him any differently, because I don't. And then I found out it didn't just happen to me. And actually, it's interesting because I found that out years prior when I was 10 years old. It just didn't click. At least not when I was older. It didn't click until a couple of years ago, within the last 10 years. I was 10 years old. I was coming home from school, or it was the summertime. I don't know. I was coming home. And the neighbor mom and the neighbor brother from down the street that my brother was friends with, they were sitting in my living room with my mom and my brother. I'm like, what's going on? Remember, I'm 10 years old. And my mom looks at me and she says, they're accusing your brother of touching his little sister, his friend's little sister. What do you think about that? I went, my brother would never fucking do that. You guys are lying.
And you were protecting him in a way you wish he protected you.
Absolutely. They ended up moving not long after. I recently got the court case documents last year to review everything, because in my heart I was like, I remember this happening, but I didn't know if that situation was a memory or I made it up. sure as shit, it's true. There was a little girl down the street that my brother inappropriately touched as well. He's sexually abused. And I looked at these people and said, you're lying. He would never do that. And so that's a lot of, I think, for me, knowing that I had an effect on somebody else, that hurts worse than knowing that I was sexually abused.
But you were 10.
I know I was 10. I know that now. And I still do struggle with that sometimes. I think for me, the worst part is I don't remember her name. I remember the brother's name. I don't remember the last name. There are so many times I'd love to try and like reach out and apologize.
Do you think that your work that you're doing now is it all in relation stemmed from her?
Yeah. And I think if you think about it too, she could have gone in any type of direction. Like I mentioned before, I still grew up with like the light and it's very active. And, you know, even though I got into drugs, I still carried on. I still kept going. I could have gone the other direction where I grew up very depressed and knew it. I could have taken a very dark turn. And I think a part of me wants to know if that's what happened to her or not. And I'd love to apologize. I don't know if it'd mean anything. But it goes back to, she may not even know that exact thing happened. Now, even from the court case, I know that, you know, they got her help and things of that nature. She may not even know that, oh yeah, this girl said no, that never happened. They moved, mom took care of her, whatever. So I think it's like, I want to apologize because I need it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because we talk about too, right? I forgave my brother. I forgave him a long time ago. And I never got an apology from him. I don't think I'll ever get an apology from him. I also don't think I'll get an apology from him because I know he lies about what happened. I don't know the exact story, but I've heard from his friends that he has said, oh yeah, my cousin accused me and I didn't feel like fighting it, so I went to jail and just dealt with it. Mm-hmm. And I went, that is not the story. Mm-hmm. I was very sexually active early. And here's another thing. I was young, so my first memory of it, I was 5. But it could have started happening earlier than that. And I remember there were stories of my mom would put me in the grocery basket. And I'd sit there with the bar in between my legs, and I would hump the grocery basket.
Like, as in you remember, or you remember your mom telling you stories that you did this? My
mom would tell me stories that I did it. When I know that she tells me that every single time that I got into a grocery basket and I'm humping the grocery basket, you didn't see that as a fucking red flag.
Right.
My kid is starting to hump randomly and at a young age. Like, where did you learn that from? Mm-hmm. There aren't phones. There's no social media. There's no like porn on your phones. Like, magazines don't have humping girls in them. Like, I learned that activity from somewhere. Mm-hmm. So where did I learn it from? I mean, I have many stories. I have stories from, you know, traveling overseas and him and I being in the same bedroom together. And just being in that freeze is so terrifying. But going back to, I think my biggest struggle is right now with not having a feeling of support from my direct family. My dad pretends that didn't happen or just actively won't have the conversation. My mom says, I dealt with this a long time ago. Can't you just get over it? Can you forgive? Forgive. I'm constantly being gaslit. And if I do want to bring it up, first of all, I'm at this point where I have a lot of anger, not toward him. I'm not angry at him because honestly, I just don't fucking care. Go fall off a cliff or go make $1 million. I don't care. I wish him the best, but I don't think about him. I don't care. Like, there's no, I'm very just indifferent. And like, that's okay to be. But I have anger around the people who are around him. My mother's boyfriend gives him a job. He lives in my grandma's house. He fucking lives off of everybody else. He's been living in a basement for 15 years. Like, go do something with your life. Stop playing the fucking victim card.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else needs to stop treating him like a victim. No. Do you realize I'm not the only one he did it to?
So you actually think that their relationship with him currently is where your anger stems from?
100%. 100%. And like, I'm the only one sitting here. I know he has such close relationships to girls and they have children. I'm the only one who goes, I know he babysits those children when people aren't around. And you think that's okay? Do they know? I know I'm the only one who sits back and thinks that. Because what? Oh, it happened when he was a young boy. It's okay.
They just grow all of it.
Doesn't fucking go away. I used to say, I think it's because he's gay. Actually, for a long time I said that. I think it's because he's gay or he's asexual. He's trying to figure it out. And so he used me to figure it out. I mean, that's still not fucking okay.
Right.
But I was always giving him an excuse. Again, I'm not the only one it happened to.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, for all these people who are like, oh, I thought it only happened once. No, it happened a multitude of times over the course of 10 years. It wasn't just me, it wasn't just the neighbor, and it wasn't just the cousin. I bet you I would bet lots of money on it that we're not the only three it ever happened to. I would also bet that he was probably sexually abused as he was younger too.
Yeah.
By whom, I don't know. So, I have forgiven. I have moved on from the experience that I have moved on from my sexual abuse. I mourn the brother that I never had. I mourn the mother who does not support me the same way that she supports him. I mourn my father who doesn't fucking show up. And the only person I have is my sister. And she's got her own stuff that she deals with. I remember for years I prayed to have a sister. And I remember when she was born, I made a promise to myself that nothing would ever fucking happen to her. He would not touch her the way that he touches me. And he never did. I probably would have fucking killed him. I don't know what it is when we allow shit to happen to us, but we won't allow it to happen to other people. I don't know. But there's no way. She was my baby. My mom ended up traveling a lot when she was only 5 years old, and she will still call me and say thank you so much for being the mother that I needed. Mm. And that's probably heartbreaking. If my mother ever hears this, it's probably heartbreaking for her to hear. She'll have something negative to say about it. But she even still calls me now and says, you're the support that I need. Thank you for being that motherly support that I need. Because I do. I give her a safe space to tell me things that she's done or things that have happened to her that are maybe not so pretty.
Oh, and that's the key right there, right? Safety. And for every time that you got to the bottom of those stairs, somewhere in that conversation with her, you did not feel safe. Or else it probably would have happened.
Yeah. I'd love to know what that was. Why I didn't feel safe, but I would agree with you. And so that's my story.
You brought up already in your story that you still had this light.
I did.
And I mean, for anyone who does not personally know you, I cannot say that enough. The first time we met, I remember asking my boyfriend, is she that nice or is she fake? And he's like, no, she really just is that nice. And like, you don't find people like that. How?
I want to take all the credit, but I don't think I can. I can talk a lot of shit about my mother, but I think it was her who it was like she trained it in me. One of her biggest sayings was, "Let's spread sunshine. Smile and wave at the people who are mean to you or who are angry. Smile and wave." She very much did that. Come on, no, let's not spread negativity. Come on, let's spread sunshine. It's ingrained in me. I will actively say those things. I mean, my brand is sunshine and sunflowers and yellow and light. And I could have taken those things that she ingrained in me and turned them the other direction, but I resonated with them. And I think that I wanted to be a person who spread light. I didn't want, sexual abuse is so dark, but I didn't want the darkness that was happening at night in my bedroom to spread into my daytime. So I spread sunshine. I think that's it. So I will thank her for that.
Oh, and I want to thank you for being as brave and vulnerable as you have been today and sharing your story. And I know you have helped someone just by them listening to this.
Thank you so much. For anyone who is going through sexual abuse or who has gone through sexual abuse, feel free to reach out to us. Feel free to share your story. I'd love to connect with you if that's something that you feel comfortable doing.
We're here for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure at the bottom of our episode to post resources that you can go to if this is something that you've experienced, or if you know someone who is currently or in the past experienced sexual abuse. We're here for you, and thank you so much for listening. Let's go spread some sunshine.